Okay, I think it's recording. So, welcome to episode 2 of Quartz Mindset. Today I have my friend Greg, and he told me to say something, but I feel like he has his own production company, and I think that's pretty cool. So I think that's how I'm going to do it. Uh, G&E Productions. How long has that been a company for you?
Oh, it's been a few years now. I'd say maybe 2017, 2018 we launched officially. Um, Emily and I have been together for 8 years now, and ever since that, we've always kind of discussed having our own little production company. It kind of started because we wanted to showcase ourselves in roles that we weren't really getting, right? So I in particular was getting very niche roles, kind of the same thing over and over. Right? If you look at my resume, you'll see like Making of the Mob and Inside the American Mafia and Tony and Tina's Wedding, The Godfather of Harlem, and The Irishman, right? Which is a good thing to
Yeah.
have your niche. But I could also do other things. So we wanted to showcase ourselves in a different light. So we actually created the production company as a means to do so.
So, do you like how many people are on your team? Because on your thing it says like makeup and special effects and like writers. How many people are on your team?
Well, at the core, it's just G&E. It's just Greg and Emily, and then we do have one marketing analysis person that kind of helps us with our posts and events and marketing and things of that nature. But we keep it small, a couple cooks in the kitchen, so to speak, and then we kind of reach out and branch out and have a network of people that we work with over and over again.
So, how does like the money split when it's
Uh,
like just you and
that's
Emily, and then
that's
you're hiring
that's the
people?
trick. We make no money. uh, um,
Like any successful artist.
like any successful artist, we create. Our goal is to create one short film, and theatrical piece a year. With the pandemic, that was a little harder, but it's very hard to sort of ever recap your uh, what you put into a short film and get that back. Uh, they're pretty much showcase pieces to uh, so people can see what we can do, to see our quality of work as either writers or actors and directors. But we're not really making a living off of it yet, which is why we still, of course, go out and do outside gigs all the time. But the goal is to get to that point where we are a financially successful production company. I think
What
we
do
need
you
a
mean?
feature for that, though. I think we need that's our next big venture. We haven't made a feature film, and that's definitely something we're interested in doing.
What do you mean outside work?
Just acting in things outside of Genie Productions, so getting cast in other people's films and production companies and TV and all that stuff.
All right. What's like your favorite project you've done?
Mm, that's a tough one. So I'm always excited about the new thing. It's just so there are two short films we have coming out right now. One is directed by Emily. It's called Transit, a New York City fairy tale. I think that may be
Um,
the best we've done. So it's a really great film. It's actually Emily's directorial debut for film, and it's about man meets woman, falls in love, uh, then soon finds out she's actually a transgender woman, and then the film is about the subsequent aftermath of that revelation, and how one goes about it and how one thinks about normalcy. And it's a film where we're very proud of. Our good friend Puya stars in it, and she also helped write the script, sort of give it that authentic voice and authentic feel. And it's a good one. We just actually submitted to our first film festival last night with it, and
oh, which one?
Sundance.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah,
Good
we're
luck with
going, we're
that.
going, we're going high, and then if needed, we'll go down the ladder. But it's one of the few projects that I feel there's kind of no ceiling, that we should indeed start at the very top because we feel it actually has a chance. It looks beautiful. The cinematography is amazing. The direction is great. The acting is very good. Um, the writing is there. It feels like a true film. Like it feels like,
And
you
that's
know.
going to be the feature film, or is this just like
No,
another?
that's a short film. It's about 18 minutes in length, which isn't an ideal length for the festival circuit because the shorter it is, the more chance
Yeah.
it has of getting in. But we actually feel that the piece is good enough to sort of supersede uh, any running time issues. So super excited about that. And then the other film I'm very excited for is called The Concert Goer. That's
Oh,
something.
it's the one you sent me, right?
Yeah, that's something I directed. The trailer just dropped last week. That's been submitted to about, like, I don't know, 30 to 35 festivals in the last month. So
Wow.
we're gonna know some things coming up in the next month or two. Um, so very excited about that. That's kind of a zany Twilight Zone-esque comedy about a couple who goes to a concert of classical music, but it's sold out. But they're promised that there's this garden and that the music is piped in and they can hear it fine. So they go to the garden. They're the only ones there. The music is piped in, but sounds horrible. Like it's just piped in
Yeah.
horribly. And they notice this lone person lying on a brick slab, and because the music is not audible, basically, they spend their time trying to figure out if this person is alive, dead, homeless, or the greatest concert goer of all time, a true
Yeah.
connoisseur. So it's wacky, but we really like it. It's based off a published short story by Dennis Paul, um, who also produced the film. Um, and so we're teaming up again after our last venture, which was the Museum of Lost Things, which won a few awards in 2018. So including that one
You want to like show
right
it? You
there.
wanna
Yeah,
like
that's
how high is it on that shelf? Is it like
it's not that high. I could reach it. But yeah, that was best story. It won at the Long Island International Film Expo. Um, so that was really cool. It won some awards at Madrid International Film Festival and had some honorable mentions at others. So it was a great experience. That was my first film as a director. So I'm glad to be back in the saddle with the same team to make this new one.
so what inspires like the idea of sphere movies? Because I saw like they have very like interesting names. And like I've seen some of the trailers and they're very like they're not like standard. I feel like they're very just like they kind of stand out.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the idea. You know, it's funny. I don't consider myself a director by trade. It's just something I've slowly started to enjoy, and that's advantageous for me because I don't really have to go and accept directing work. I just direct things that I want to direct. So to me, um, I very much agree with the idea that, if you make a film for everyone, you're actually making a film for no one, right? So I like these kind of little strange or unique or out there type of projects that may not be everyone's cup of tea, but they're really sort of intriguing. I'm attracted to projects like that, which I think is why I partnered with Dennis Paul on numerous occasions because he's a writer of short fiction, and I find his work endlessly fascinating and interesting, and it's always absurdism meets I don't know, magical realism at times. His stuff is never sort of normal, I guess. So I'm always attracted to that. So we've worked together on like four projects, and we'll probably continue to do so.
Four
But yeah,
projects.
yeah, four.
Wow.
So I'm definitely attracted to films that sort of stand out and they're not your run of the mill story.
Can you like Is there a film you feel like inspires you to like make movies? Is there
Hmm,
like a film you can think of?
interesting. Well, my one of my favorite films, um, I mean, other than like the obvious, like yeah, like I understand The Godfather is like the Hamlet of film, so I won't touch that. But another of my favorite films that I feel like is underappreciated is a film called The Fountain with Hugh
Found.
Jackman, and it's exactly the type of stuff I like. Uh, it's not linear. The narrative is unique and almost challenging, and it's a very sort of thought-provoking piece. I like pieces that make me think. I generally don't like to turn my brain off when I watch film. I usually watch film for the complete opposite reason. I want my brain to turn on and I want to start
Yeah.
thinking about concepts and things like that. So The Fountain is one of my favorites. And in terms of inspiration, I feel like art in general always inspires me, whether it's a piece of music or another film, or you go into a museum and you see artwork and you're just fixated on that work. And I think I draw from all of that when I make film or when I write or when I make any type of art, really. Um, yeah, art begets art, I think.
Yeah, I agree with that. I feel like anything could inspire anything, you know. So
Exactly.
you can just like go for a walk and you'll find something you'll want to do.
Oh, absolutely. Whether that's visually based or you see something, or if you overhear a conversation and you're like, that's dialogue. That belongs in some sort of narration. It's everywhere.
Yeah. So like what is your process when you're writing? Like how long does it usually take you for
Um,
like a project?
mm, I think my brain is my filter, meaning that I get an idea, but I won't write anything down for quite a long time. And if that idea sticks and it stays with me and it keeps popping back up weeks, months later, then it sort of passes the first test. It means that it's at least interesting enough where I keep thinking about it. Uh, and then I tend to maybe write down some notes or ideas or things I've been thinking about it. And then when I get a little bit more serious, outlines are key for me, especially if it's a longer piece. If it's a very short piece, then I just may get right to it. If it's a poem or a short, really short film, or even a really short story, maybe I'll get right to it. But if it's a longer piece, a novella or something like this, um, definitely an outline. Sometimes a chapter by chapter outline, or at least a
Yeah.
beginning, middle, end outline. It's tricky because you want to leave enough room where you can adapt and change, right? You don't want to go in so stringent that you can't accept change because you have this preconceived notion of where it needs to go. Sometimes the story surprises you, sometimes characters surprise you, sometimes they would just want to go in a different uh, direction, and you have to be free enough to allow that to happen. But in general, I like to know where I'm going, generally speaking, when I start a
Yeah.
project.
So you have a movie called Wet Paint. Like what
mm,
is I saw the
wet,
trailer for that and I was
wet
like
paint
what did
wet paint is our horror film, yeah. um, so this was based on originally a short story written by Emily, and then I wrote the
oh
screenplay for it. And then we found this director of horror that we really enjoyed. His name is Jeroni J. St. Hilaire. And we just really
that's a
liked his
wonderful
work.
name.
It is. Everything he does looks so different. Like he just has his own style. I see his work and I'm like, oh, Jeroni did that clearly.
Yeah.
So his work tended to be experimental. So we're like, well, what happens if we take his experimental nature of filmmaking and we mix it with something a bit more narrative, and combine the two? So he agreed to direct the project, and that was one of those films that was inspired by art, by painting itself as a concept. And our tagline was something like, uh, you know, why does greatness and suffering always seem to relate to one another, right? The struggling, the suffering artist producing great work. So that was the sort of initial concept of the story, and it's about a painter who meets a person who sort of starts corrupting his life, and everything is falling apart. Yet his paintings are attracting acclaim, uh, and struggling to sort of find the balance between the two before it's all too late. So it's a horror film. It was originally 20 minutes long, uh,
Wow.
which I enjoyed it for its story purposes, but we all felt it just wasn't scary enough. So then we sort of just gave it to Jeroni, who also edited the film, and he took that 20-minute film, repurposed it as a 10-minute film, switched things around, and made this 10-minute version that was scary, and far more chilling. And so that's also kind of relating to what I was talking about before, of allowing your project the room to evolve and grow, even if it's cut and shortened, because the 10-minute version is ultimately a way better version than the 20-minute film. So that's hard, because it's kind of like your baby, right? If you written it
Yeah.
and you're just witness it being literally cut, and torn to pieces. But the result at the end of the day is advantageous to what you're trying to do.
Is it hard to like be in the movie and like outside the movie at the same time?
Mm. Yeah.
Like what's the biggest challenge with doing that?
Well, I think as a writer, when you're writing it, you're always the writer. And then when you're in it, if you're acting in it, for me, I just have to be very conscious of taking off every other hat, taking off the producer hat, taking off the writer hat, however else I'm involved in the project, and when I'm acting, to just wear the acting hat, and to then just listen to whatever the director has to say. So it's kind of like compartmentalizing yourself and separating yourself from the different involvements of the film. Though I will say, The Concert Goer, this new film, is the first film I ever acted in that I also directed. And I was very curious and nervous what that experience was going to be, but it was an experience I wanted to have. So I had a supporting role, but a significant supporting role. And that was a very weird thing, because you have to really trust what everyone else is seeing, meaning you have to trust that they understand your vision. And I can sort of step back and critique my own acting. And then ironically, if I need to give notes to the actors acting opposite me, which is always weird, but if I'm the director, but I can't see what's through the lens at the moment. I mean, we could always stop, and I can always go back and watch what happened, but it takes a certain level of trust in your crew, and trust in yourself too. Ironically, I was much more comfortable acting in my film than directing it.
Yeah, I feel like that makes sense, because it's like when you're running it, it's like it's a lot more pressure, and it's
Absolutely. A part of me was like, oh, maybe I should just stay the actor here. This is far more comfortable, because you're in charge of so many more things when you're directing a piece. But I was very, very, very happy with the way the film came out, and I'm definitely proud of it. So at the end of the day, my decision to do both didn't screw up the film.
So how do you balance between like running the company and then like making the movie and then like running the company? Like, because I'm sure there's like a lot of meetings and things you have to do separate from making movies.
Yeah, so it's kind of tunnel vision. So because we are only a two-person team, we kind of have to work on one thing at a time. And you always try to have multiple projects in the air, because chances are the majority of them will sort of fall for whatever reason, and then at least you have something to grab onto and to make. but we pretty much just stay focused on the thing at hand. So the next thing up, right? So we'll have meetings and decide what we want to do this year. I mean, obviously, we try to make one film a year. We try to make one play, and sometimes those conversations are about what we should prioritize, right? What strategically makes the most sense for us right now, right? Which one of these many projects that we have should we do next? And then once we sort of make the decision of this is what we should do, then the focus becomes, all right, well, how do we go about doing it, right? So it's very sort of step by step oriented, and then pre-production and casting and locations, and then the actual filming of it, and then the beast that is post-production, editing the film. So once we're in post-production, then we actually start talking about, okay, what can we do next? Like, what is after this project? But we never do that beforehand, because the focus, we would sort of lose the thing at hand, and we never want that to happen. We don't want to think about the far future instead of being in the moment and dealing with the important thing in the moment. So that's kind of how we go about it.
Do you have any like diehard fans of your like movies?
My mom. I wouldn't say fans. We have colleagues that really appreciate our work and really enjoy our work. And they tend to be other artists, but it is nice to know that, if G&E posts a Facebook post, that, we're getting a few likes. So that's always really, really encouraging. And people seem to be generally interested in what we're putting out.
And I had a thought. So is there anything you feel like, did you want to do this before, like way in the past, or was it just like after with Emily?
The production company itself?
Yeah.
It wasn't really until about that time when we decided to make it, or pondering about possibly doing it, that I wanted one. Probably like 10 years ago or plus, I would have never even conceived of the idea of wanting one. I think it really came out of a need more so than a want or a desire, sort of a need to showcase ourselves in a different way, or a need to showcase our work, our writing, our directing skills, as a platform to do so. So it wasn't originally part of kind of the big dream, but I absolutely love the fact that we have one now, because it truly is a platform. And then we also have a blog, which I love. And, Emily and I write one article a year, and then the rest are sort of guest blogs. And I
That's kind of cool.
I love those monthly articles. It's about all sort of any medium of art, any aspect of art, and people get to sort of voice their thoughts, whether they're gripes or the things that they love, or things that they're excited about, or whether it's conceptual. To give a platform to others. As G&E Production has evolved, we do think more about sort of giving a platform to others and not just ourselves. Having their voices also be voices within our production company, which is also extremely fulfilling and rewarding.
That's cool. So you won an award recently for like a poetry thing. How did that feel?
That was really cool. That was my first award for poetry. I think I placed in third place in a poetry contest about for a poem I wrote about COVID being in place, and it was I don't know. It was one of those things where I didn't even think I was going to write this poem, and then someone suggested to me that I should write this poem, and then I just wrote and I put it out there, and then I just saw a poetry contest, and I was like, oh, I'll just submit. and I wasn't expecting anything. So to place in the top three was pretty cool. It gave me a nice certificate, and I believe a cash prize was involved as well, which isn't too shabby. So yeah, that was really nice. Um, and then recently, I just had some other poetry published. So it's I view this whole thing as just a bunch of different avenues, whether it's poetry, short stories. Uh, I've written unpublished novels, you know, directing or acting or all of these things are just different avenues, and I'm just hoping one hits because if one
Yeah,
hits, it can only help all the other avenues. And I don't mind which one does hit if one hits, because I truly kind of love all these forms of writing and all these forms of art. Confined but commemorating was the name of the poem that won. Ironically, the first place winner uh, is going to be this month's blog article writer.
oh, that's cool.
If you
So you
can't beat
stay
them,
in,
blog them.
yeah. So do you stay in contact? Like, do you make connections through like these contests? Meaning, like, if someone like like having that guy write an article on your blog, like, do you do that most of the time, or was it just like a random like moment where it was like,
Yeah, I
hey,
definitely. Yeah, I think it's a smart sort of networking approach. If I go to a film festival, I'm always and I really enjoy a film, I will absolutely reach out to that artist to see, um, if they want to collaborate on something. If I feel if it's a right fit, or I'll just follow their work. Same thing with the poetry contest. I'm very intrigued of. I want to read the poem, right? That won first place and second place. Um, and I would love to work with that individual if that's possible. So I'm always looking to network and to sort of collaborate with different people, great artists. Um, I don't really view it as a competition per se, even when it is. I just view it as an opportunity to work with new, cool people.
that's pretty cool. Is there was there a moment where did you know you were like getting third when you submitted it, or was it just like you were just winging it?
When I submitted it, oh yeah, no, I did. I just submitted it. I have no idea how many other uh, submissions there were in the contest. Um, I didn't even. I think once it's much like an audition. Like once I go on an audition and I leave the room, I sort of never think about it again, unless I'm called. So it's kind of the same thing with poetry or literary submissions in general. Once I submit, I just forget about it, and then months later, you get this email that you got accepted or you're placed or you won something, and you're like, yes. But to constantly think about it would probably drive me mad.
Yeah. And then where do you find all these film festivals? Like, how do you find them? Do you like look them up, or
Yeah,
do you
well, I
just know
think
about them?
sort of uh, being in the industry for a while now, you go to different film festivals, you hear about others. Obviously, they're the top tier ones that everyone knows about. And then you start accumulating a list of festivals you like and festivals that may not be worth it. Uh, so I have a list uh, that was originally started by a friend of mine who actually made a list, and then I add to it and alter it, and kind of my go-to. And also just the suggestions of other friends who have been to other festivals. Maybe they really like this one, maybe they say this one's probably not worth submitting to. um, yeah, also of course depends on the project, if it's the right fit for a particular festival.
If you could work with anyone in your movie, who would you want to work with?
Oh god, that's tough. um, well, I mean, growing up, of course, people like Pacino and De Niro were my sort of acting inspirations, and it's pretty cool because I was in The Irishman, so to see them work, and to say good morning to them was a pretty cool experience. So I did kind of get that. I would love to be in like a Wes Anderson film. That would be my. I definitely draw inspiration from him when I direct film. I tend to love the type of movies he makes. It's another one of those cases where you see a frame and you're like, oh yeah, that's clearly Wes Anderson. So that would sort of be my an A24. I would do anything made by A24, which is a really cool production company. So yeah.
Do you have like a favorite kind of movie?
Movies that just challenge me, sort of intellectually, I guess, that really make me think. I think that supersedes genre for me. I mean, I love science fiction and metaphors and ideas, and